All right, it is the last day of class. We're gonna go over grading, I believe. We're gonna go over the tasting, the cupping, and the result, and the mystery one. I was like nervous. I was like, God, like my ego was like, I hope you're not fucking wrong. But then I was like, well, if I'm wrong, then it's an opportunity to learn. I had to like talk myself down. The ego is always in the way of you becoming a better person, better roaster. I plan on my ego being utterly destroyed in this class, and I plan on being very open and learning and receiving all of that good knowledge from these awesome people who are putting on this amazing class. I will link up everything in the description so that you can kind of jump in between videos and everything, okay?
Really excited for today. There's a lot of ground to cover, and hopefully 380, 385. But again, it's different machines. This is a wet hold process, and if you pop that open and poured it out on your mat, you would see that there's a lot more going on with this coffee.
Okay, so we're going to get into the grading portion. I'm going to mute Lauren here. But this was really cool. So you see I've got that, the placemat. We're poured out the Sumatra green here. And yeah, definitely you can see a lot more nuance. I mean, you guys can't see, but I can see a lot more things going on, meaning there's a lot more defects here. Not so much so that this coffee would be graded as like unacceptable, but it was still super cool to see like, oh cool, like this one has little pinholes in it, or this one is chipped and broken. I found a lot of chipped and broken, some insect damage. I think I found like a weird moldy looking one, and the size variance was pretty crazy too. Like there was a really, really tiny one, and then there was like a bigger one. So it was cool. I mean, I've never examined green like this before. So just for them to handhold and go through this process was pretty dope. It was pretty dope. I don't think I'll be doing this all the time, but like I can now. That's the, I think that's the beauty of this. It's like if you're thinking about roasting and you just will never kind of do all of these things on your own unless you were a super A plus student or something. But I mean, I thought I was pretty much in it, but I had no idea about this stuff. So the fact that you get exposure, and I think that's kind of like the concept to school, is to expose you to a lot of different things on the surface and allow you to just wet your toes. So this was great. I loved this. All right, last day of class. In this video, we'll just go over really quickly what the last day was about, and then like I've been doing, go over some of the things that stood out to me, and then of course my review of the whole class as a whole, and answering the question, is it worth it? Okay, so we first started this class with grading coffee. That was really cool. A lot of theory and a lot of overview, not necessarily something that I'll be like really concerning myself with, for me anyway, but it's still really cool to just have the knowledge. It's just like when you get into coffee roasting and you just start learning about all the processes, even though you're not necessarily going to be doing anything with that yet, or visiting a farm, or making a deal with a farmer or something like that. But it's just good to know. It's like going to school. You're getting all the theory, whether you're going to use it right away or not. That's you're probably not going to use it. In terms of grading coffee, it just lets you know, like, you're a roaster, you're going to be, especially if you're a small batch roaster like me, you're going to be very intimate with your green, or at least you should be, going, oh yeah, so that's what these little holes are in these beans are, and that's why these are chipped, and this and that, right? So that was super helpful to do. This day felt longer, and I think it's just because, not in a bad way, but just that, you've been sitting in class for 2 days straight now. Here's your third class, right? And sitting in front of the computer for 4 hours straight with a 10-minute break is, it's not an easy thing to do. I don't work that long in terms of like me being in front of my computer. I will take multiple breaks because I have to. So today just seemed a little bit longer. There's a lot more lecture, a lot more talking. Like the middle of the class was a lot of cupping, so there's a lot more you doing something. And I felt like on this third day, this last day, I really had to be just fighting my urges to not actively listen. You know, I had to be really dialed in. But good thing is that the two instructors, Derek and Lauren, they have a different way. You know, they're not the same in how they deliver the information. So having them step here, like go first, go second, go third, like this, like take turns, was a good way for me to receive the information, to keep me not like at a plateau in terms of hearing certain information. Because if you start to hear the same tone or the same level or the same something for too long, you kind of like get zoned out, right? So you need some sort of pattern interrupt so you can go, oh, you know, it's just how your human brain works. Okay, so that was good. Not everything was wrong. So I was like, cool, that's a win. So I was like, I just felt more validated on my path to becoming a better cupper. And we taste whiskey all the time. I haven't really sat down and tasted a bunch of whiskeys at all. And I used to be really into wine tasting and everything. And I'm an avid baker now, and I cook a lot. So I feel like everything that Derek and Lauren were saying in terms of being on the path and getting better at tasting and cupping and being able to identify and see through coffee. You know, coffee is just coffee flavor, and being able to identify certain things like strawberry versus blueberry versus raspberry, things like that. I feel like I'm on that path, so that was cool. Kind of the most pleasing thing I think was kind of like matching with Lauren in that profile number 3, which was this guy was the favorite, and that it was, you know, I was able to pick out some things, like it was juicy, right? Like I said in the other video. So that was cool. I took a lot of notes with this one. I'm not gonna share all of them. I'm just gonna like kind of cherry pick some stuff because I really think that there's a lot of value in this class, in that you coming into the class is really gonna dictate how worth it is. But I'll get into that. Let me just get into my notes, okay? So, it's like a page and a half, maybe 2 pages of notes. This one we had a lot more roasting time where he was really just dialing in. He's like, this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and actually calling out on the gas meter like 0.7 kPa. That was really helpful for me because a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm at 50%, or I'm at 70%, or I'm at 5%, and like percentage is great and all, but because we're working on similar machines, it was so nice to just hear exactly what he was on, you know. Any of you who are learning roasting and you're going out and you're like, so you made that adjustment, what does that mean for my machine and this adjustment, right? So just like kind of matching things up. It's always a little bit challenging. Here's something that stood out to me. Derek was saying, sometimes you have to let coffee do its thing to figure it out, not try to always force it to do what you want it to do. So if you have a new coffee in the roastery, and you're trying to figure out how best to roast it, sometimes you gotta let coffee do its thing. Now, I don't 100% understand this, okay? Because I don't have that much experience of taking on a new roast and trying to like let coffee do its thing. I'm not really sure what that means yet, but I feel like I could understand what that means if I just get into the roastery and maybe roast one type, one origin, back to back to back for like 5 batches. And I think I will understand what he's trying to say. Because I feel like whenever I had something new, like the newest green that we have here was the Peru Cajamarca, and I was like, so it's washed, it's organic. Does that mean anything for me? Like, I'll just treat it like a regular washed, but the the density's not so high, so what does that mean? Like, you know, so just trying to figure some stuff out. Steve and Derek talked about the big target, like focusing, if you're a new roaster, focusing on coffees that have a big target, meaning you don't have to nail it to get it. I feel like when I first started up roasting, I had a Burundi in here and I could not nail the Burundi. It was always turning out quite flat. And I know that it's supposed to be a great coffee because otherwise Bodhi wouldn't offer it, you know, as a green. It's scored a certain way. But I was like, when I go to cup it against all these other coffees like Guatemala or Honduras or something like this, or even Mexico Chiapas, I was like, this tastes flat. Like, I don't know. Like, it's my fault. I know it's my fault. I can't figure it out. And so maybe not buying greens like that are maybe kind of funky or complex or difficult for you to roast in the beginning. You know, focusing on coffees that have a big target that you could just, if you get it in here, like, it'll taste good, you know, because it costs money, right? You don't want to, and you don't want to waste coffee too. Like, I feel like those Burundis always kind of like singe my my memory because I'm like, that was money spent. I feel like if I was a better roaster, it could, you know, it'd been better, but you know, whatever. Okay. Oh, here's something. You can develop an allergy to green coffee dust. So right now you're maybe, you know, fiddling with a little bit of green, pouring it into your little thing, doser, I don't know, what do you call that? And it's just free, you know, in the air and all the particulates in the air and stuff like that. Well, Derek now wears gloves and a mask because it actually causes him a rash and he can't breathe. So I was like, oh, okay, wow. So just something to be cognizant of. Like, this is not just something, especially I'm working with this type of machine. It's just like heavy duty machinery here in my garage. Not to take it lightly, basically. It was reminding me not to take it lightly. Like, it's not just this KitchenAid thing that's sitting on your counter. It's this heavy piece of machinery, fires coming out of it, you know, particulates are coming out of it. There's soot and a lot of crazy carbon matter that is being produced here. And you're putting in all of these raw, potentially hazardous things that are coming from countries that are, you know, third world sometimes, most of the time third world, so you don't know what they're bringing into your environment. And so it's just something like a reminder to take it a little bit more seriously, a lot more seriously, with a lot more protocol and with standards of procedure, like anything that you treat. Like, sometimes I get so sucked into the fun of it that I don't often think about the serious side of what this really is you're producing something for somebody to consume. It must be clean and sterile, for the betterment of everything, for you, for the machine, for the money that you're spending, for the consumer, as of course, as well. So it's just something to treat with a lot more respect. You know, I think that's the better term, like we talked about in day one. Respect it. So that was a big lesson for me, you know, like, again, it's not something that is new to respect what you do, because I already love it. Of course I respect it, but how do you do that? How do you respect something? Oh, you know, I clean my vents every week because I want to make sure my airflow is like top notch because I want to create a consistent product, like this, right? So there's all these ways where I'm finding, oh, this is what it means to respect, right? And like I've been learning as I started roasting, I'm like, coffee is such a bridge into a deeper understanding of the self and how you could be a better self for the rest of your environment. It's so life-changing, even though coffee has always been there in my life. But only finally in the last year or so, really, really allowing coffee to be a vehicle and to transform with it, you know. Weird. Very cool. Weird, but very cool. Your coffee drum should sound like a train. I like that. Derek was saying it should be like, ch, 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 ch. I remember that. I'll remember that forever. It shouldn't be like a slow train or a too fast train. It should be just like a nice sounding train. Cleaning was a big deal that we focused on the last part of this class, which was great. Saying that the roast air fan, which I already know, like mine is getting a little bit like busted, a little jacked up, a little bit caked with sooty brown particulates and stuff like this. And I was like, throughout this whole time, I was like, I must clean it immediately. So I was like, oh man. So the roast air fan is the heart and lungs of your machine. Most important. That's what I wrote down. So I'm like, yeah, because I see it every time. You know, when I'm roasting, I see that thing, and it's got this little tiny gate, and it kind of gets caked with like a dusty coffee, somewhat sticky kind of residue. And I vacuum it whenever I can, but I feel like the attachment of the vacuum is just, it's too basic. I need to get in there with a wire brush or something that can really get into there. And then he was saying, take it apart and put it back together while it's the cleanest it can be, or while it's not super caked and dirty and about to fall apart, because then you're just going to save yourself a lot of headache. And a bunch of cleaning stuff that I thought was really interesting, because I don't really see much like videos or tutorials talking about cleaning. I've seen maybe one, but it still wasn't as informative. And also no water, you know. Derek prefers to clean with no water, no solutions, because you just don't know how those things are going to affect. So everything is dry cleaned. I was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. So I thought that was super interesting. Oh yeah, and important too, another thing with executing and being more respectful with the practice is creating a schematic of the roaster. They already give you one, but to have your own. Like to make your own, to know it, to know your machine, to know what's going on, to know the ins and outs, soup to nuts, right? And to label them. So I thought that was really great. And he also said that 1 millimeter of buildup is equivalent to 10% decrease in airflow. Wow. So I've only been roasting, say, 6 months on the 1 kg, and I don't roast often. But I would like to get in there and to just kind of see what's going on. And when it comes time to it, I'm actually, say, like producing coffee all the time. I don't know when that will be. But I will know. You know, at least I will have gotten my feet wet about going about the process of cleaning the machine, you know, and maintaining it. Another thing too he mentioned was, and this is so important in terms of running a business, is being able to teach somebody else that, right? So like in our other business, we didn't learn how to teach or pass on our skills or even know how to offhand our work until it was really too late. And it'll cause a lot of stress because you're all the time working, and nobody can ever take over for you. So that was a great business logistics and back end note. Cooling tray should be, if you're roasting frequently, should be a daily cleaning. And then for me, it's probably going to be like a weekly cleaning, or maybe even a monthly cleaning for me. Creating a roast schedule with date and hours roasted, kind of like you're clocking in and out, so that you can track how many hours in between each cleaning. Just like you go to the bathroom in some restaurant, right? You'll see the cleaning log. So for good measure and best practices, standard procedure, have a roast schedule or cleaning log. I thought that was very, very helpful. Everything else, you have to take the course for yourself to get all the other great tidbits. Now I'm going to move over into the review of the whole class. Let's pull up their website and then just go by what they say. Okay, so and then I'll add in anything if I think something's missing. But I'm going to judge and review based on what they said they were going to deliver. So here we are at millcityroasters.com under Roasting 101. The link is in the description, okay? So they're saying they are doing a live interactive class taught in 3 4-hour sessions. Yep, 3 4-hour sessions. So for me, I'm Pacific time, so it was 11 to 3 for me with a 10-minute break. in between, and about the middle. Class box mailed to you before class: coffees, green grading tools, cupping tools, roast progression samples, and more. We didn't touch the roast progression samples, but it's obvious to you. You can just check it out. The class box, I think they should name it, because it's so, a lot of these things they created themselves, like this. It's not the official one, but it's their own because it fit in the box. I think they should brand it or something. It should have a little bit more of a presence, I feel like, when they present this, because it's so pretty. It feels so special. The way that they packaged everything, I'm just a big fan of packaging when it happens, done right. It just makes you inspired, motivated to go to the class and go, ooh, I wonder when we're gonna, mess with this guy, or what are these for, and it's so pretty. Pretty is the thing, pretty's good. All right, roast path, live broadcasting for the detailed roast curve during multiple coffee roasting demonstrations. So roast path was only used, I think about maybe twice or so yesterday. No, I forget. It was used, so cool. Today there was about 3 live roasts or 2 live roasts. I'm tired. 2 live roasts at least. No roast path today. But he was calling out all his things, and that's how I take notes shorthand. So I know exactly what's going on. I feel like if you weren't already roasting, you might have been a little lost. But it's supposed to be for people who are experienced, like I said, and people who are super new. Multiple cameras and educators for each session, so you don't miss a thing. Yeah, that's what's cool. So they had a static camera like you see here, and then they had a handheld one that you could switch to online on the Zoom, and you could get an up-close view of their roaster as he was flipping switches and things like this. And I was like, cool, that's really helpful. So that's great that they thought of that they needed second camera. Every morning you got an email link to click on the link. It was super easy to connect. We only had maybe one connectivity issue where things were kind of fuzzy. That was yesterday, but it was towards the end of the class, so connectivity and doing it online was not a problem. And I'm very used to learning online. I've done a couple of these. If you've never been on Zoom, or if you've never had a Skype session or a Google Hangout or something like that, maybe it might feel a little odd for you, but I was totally used to it. I'm not going to read all these fully, but basically the topics are 3 full afternoons focused on remote education, up-close demonstrations, yes, beginning with basics, yes, for sure. They cover theory pretty thoroughly, and they allow you to ask questions anytime, and you can throw up a question in the chat box. It was so easy. It felt very accessible. And the type of educators they are, this is important, okay? Besides all this, yes, we did everything. I'll go through here. Blending, yes. Cupping, we'll get into blending. Roast profile, development, safe, I'll get back to that. But let me just talk about your teachers, your instructors. I think it's so important to be learning from somebody who you actually like, right? I went to there's no offense to Scott Rip, but I went to one of his things and I thought it was going to be the dopest, dopey dope thing that I ever been to. And it was all right. It was all right because his energy, which if you've ever sat in a class with him or whatever, or read a blog or something like that, his energy is kind of muted, right? If I were to compare it to Derek, it's night and day, right? So to me, I think it will serve you well if you know what type of learner you are, and say you like passionate people, and say you like people, maybe they get a little quote unquote ranty, but it's only because they're passionate, right? And for me, in my preference, I would so much rather learn from somebody who at least I could feel their passion, or I could feel and kind of like be on the same energy level, same vibe, right? If I'm making sense. And if anything, if Derek is, the extreme of who Scott Rayo is in terms of energy, right? It was great to have Lauren there, who was a sort of just very mellow. I could see her passion, but it wasn't say as boisterous as say Derek and ranty as I use ranty in a very good way. Okay, don't take that in a bad way. But that, because I do that too. I can get, hey, watch my videos. They're 30 minutes long. Okay, it's because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. So I get it. So your instructors, you should choose instructors who speak to you. You should choose teaching materials that speak to you. They can all say the same thing, but if somebody says it in a way that kind of just like is on your level, you dig them, you dig their energy, that's who you need to go for. So pay attention to that. Roast profile development. Yeah, we talked about that in the last class, in the last day, where I have some notes here. How Derek tries to figure out a profile for a new coffee, say. He was saying, this can get too technical right now, which I'm not going to get into. Maybe on one of the roasting videos that I do, the full roasts. But basically breaking down where in each of the phases, there's 3 phases in roasting coffee. There's the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'm just going to name it that. And for example, the mid phase is where he's trying to, if it's his goal to develop more sweetness in body or not, right? So things like that. In terms of roast profile development, we certainly went over that, and I felt like it was very thorough. Cupping, yeah, cupping was definitely gone over, very thorough. I felt like I leveled up my cupping game for sure. Just to be able to do, I like that there was 5. We were able to do 5, and that's, based on the SCA, you need 5 cups like this. It's like a W, to cup and to see nuance and to see consistency or not, right? So we were able to do that, which was great. And then I love the challenge of trying to figure this out. When I was trying to figure it out, I actually thought about it the night I went to sleep that night. And I was like, I hope I get something right. Like it put stakes and introduced stakes into this. There was a competitiveness. Like, I want to get it right. Like, what is it? Like, oh man. And during class, I was just trying to be quiet because I want to hear other people. And I think it's, for somebody like me who can talk a lot, I want to be able to practice listening. So I was like really trying to be more quiet, I think, on this day. Not quiet, but like more receiving. Blending. Yeah, we talked about blending throughout the 3 days and how blending kind of takes place and the different perspectives that come into blending, where it can be how to save money or how to salvage or how to be an artisan. So blending is very interesting. Still want to get into it a little bit more, but I've definitely changed my attitude towards blending for a while now. I came into coffee roasting being like single origin only, and kind of like a purist. But now I feel like I could still have my purist mentality, but I'm making room for other things to kind of like sit with me. Instead of being a purist and like sitting on the chair and taking up the whole chair, I'm like, I'm a purist, but I'm so willing to sit next to other people who aren't. So that's how I feel like I've been transforming, which is, it's cool. It's fun. It's kind of cool to see in myself. Safety and operations for sure. Yeah, that was really eye-opening, I think. Like I talked about, the respect. The respect had really hit home for me. That was it. So this is a long ass video. I told you I talk a lot. It's like 30 minutes. It's probably going to be longer than 30 minutes. So that was my review. Do I think it's worth it? Let's talk about the price. $600. I can't speak on that because I was sponsored. Okay, so take that as you will. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I put it out in the universe because I saw this when you guys came out with it. And I was like, I want to go to that. And then for whatever reason, the universe said, okay, thank you. And then I said, thank you. I received that. So, is $600 worth it? Okay, this is a silly question. In a way, in that any class that you take, you are the one who's going to make it worth it for you. All right? Because I could have came in this class and been like, dope, I got my cool, like, free shit, you know, like, I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna just, like, chill out and I'm gonna hit, like, you know, I'm not gonna enable my video and just, like, peace out. No, I was like, I'm gonna take advantage, right? Like, I'm gonna make this class worth it. You know, I didn't pay for it, but goddamn, I want to make this thing worth it for me. I want to ask as many questions. I really have these questions, you know? So I feel like the money is a way for you to stay accountable and for you to already do that. But I felt like I was present and engaged and interacted and did my homework the same as if I paid for it. Because I truly believe that you're the one who's going to make it worth it, you know? So I feel, I don't know, like that's just how I feel. With all that being said, very worth it. Like, there's so much that I learned. There's so much I didn't share with you because, you know, out of respect for the class, I'm not going to just give away the farm. But also, there's some things that I haven't yet fully grasped. You know, I think, like I was talking about, the let the coffee do its own thing. I'm like, I think. Things like that, right? And there's so many, like, the way that Derek teaches is he talks a lot, right? Very quickly, very fast. You got to listen very, very actively. And he'll drop these major golden nuggets and you're like, and you're like, what? And you write it down. And that's cool, you know, like, so that's his style. And then Lauren is just like, kind of like, I call it, so Derek is gold nuggets, dropping gold nuggets, like boom, like whoa. And then Lauren is like steady cash flow, just steadily, just like feeding you all the good things, the essentials. And they're a good team. They're a great team together. I don't feel, they give respect to each other, they give space to each other to speak. I just feel their teamwork and professionalism that came across very well. I think they did a really great job, and I really enjoyed learning from both of them. And I like that tandemness, especially because, like I was saying, the energy for them to maintain our energy too across the screen. That's hard, you know. If you see somebody who's like this, and you're trying to teach and you're trying to be excited about what you're doing and you want to deliver and you want to be a professional, because I get that, like, we're in the service industry, and if I see that you're not enthused, like, I feel like I have to give more energy to you, right? So it's not an easy thing to do, this type of class. So and I'm sorry, like, I probably was doing this sometimes because it's a lot of information, but overall just really great, really a really fun time. If I was bored, it was because it wasn't bored. It was more like just being showered with so much information. I'm like, what do I do with all this? So, you know, I'm new. So that's kind of how it felt. I don't think you'll ever be bored. You'll just be like, okay, so, like, what do I do with that information? You're trying to decide what to do with this information. So maybe you write it down, or maybe you just let it kind of like pass through you. And there's a lot of the pass throughing if you're new. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I could turn my ears on anymore, right? But I think it's great. Yeah. So I think if you are serious about it, and or even if you're, I wonder if you were just curious and you came into this class and would this convert you to be like, shoot, I got to go take roasting 101 now. I don't feel like I want to take roasting, roasting 102. I don't feel like I could take that immediately. Like they have a roasting 102 class starting immediately. And I think that's only because this is not my primary job. If I were to go, hey, this is going to be my primary thing, right? This is my first job. I've got all my eggs in this basket, per se. And I want to be as successful and as quickly as possible, I would go for that 102 class. But because I know when our business comes back on track, I'm not going to have the same time that I have right now in quarantine. I'm trying to take advantage of everything right now, making a lot of content, getting behind the roaster, roasting a lot, trying to do whatever I can because I have time, right? But there's going to come a time when phase 3 will open back up, we'll go back to work, and I'm not going to have the same focus and the same time. And that's why I'm not as jumpy. So we're getting close to that where we're going to go back to work soon. So, and when that happens, it's going to be back to back to back stuff. A lot of coordinating, a lot of shifting of the mindset, and getting back and focusing on our clients and weddings. So, yeah, that was my take. I try to be as honest as possible. Sorry if I didn't think of all the things. I do my best, try to record and make content for you that is helpful and is honest, and is authentic. Like class just ended 30 minutes ago, and I turn on the camera, I hit record, I start talking. So, which is a skill I'm trying to develop. Okay, so questions, comments, leave them in the comments. Links in the description for all this stuff if you want to learn more. They were great. They were wonderful. I do recommend it if you're down to give your coffee more respect, learn some real deal McNeil stuff. Very good. And yeah, if you got the time, yeah, do it. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out with this series. You can find parts day 1, 2, and 3 and the unboxing of this all in a playlist somewhere. All right, good things. Have a great rest of the weekend. Peace out.